You got to stay healthy. Listen, we've got fans from all over the world. Check this out. This is who all is tuned in so far. We've got Alberta, we've got Pennsylvania, California, Michigan, Kentucky, Oregon, Oklahoma, New Jersey,
Oh my
Tennessee. Let's see. We've got Illinois, San Bruno. Like we've got all kinds of people. So
wow.
this is all
Howdy, folks. So
Yes,
good to hear that.
Yes.
All places we want to come to, by the way.
Yes. Yes.
I pray COVID.
So this is kind of a weird question, but how has 2020 been treating you up till this point? Have you guys been staying safe and sane, managing pretty well?
It's been a crazy year.
Yes.
Very crazy.
Yeah.
I can totally understand.
Seen better years.
Yes. This will be one for the history books, but hopefully we are coming out of it with more smiles than anything.
Let's hope so. Well, today seems to be
You're coming out with more smiles.
Yeah, sure. Definitely coming out with more smiles.
Oh yeah.
Yes, more smiles, not right now.
Yeah.
Congratulations, everybody. Congratulations to your president-elect, Joe Biden, and your vice president-elect, Senator Kamala Harris.
There we go.
Very, very good. Very excited for you.
Very awesome. Very, very awesome. All right, so let's jump into this because this is a show that is penultimate. It is the pinnacle of so many things for so many people. Collectively, you literally ruled Saturday mornings as the Merry Mutants. And were you familiar with the X-Men as characters? Larry, this is an unfair question. I already know. Matter of fact, we'll save you for last. So everyone else, were you familiar with the X-Men before you were cast?
Go for it, Cal.
Yeah,
I was very much so.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
I remember when the very first X-Men comic book came out.
Nice. That's what I'm talking about.
10.
I love it.
I think I bought it.
I must have been about 2 then.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, I think I was 2.
That's awesome. And Beast being one of the original characters, that had to be something really cool to kind of.
Now you're 4.
On the golf course, I use that a lot.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Chris, what about you? Were you familiar with the X-Men much?
I was only familiar with George and Lenore and Cal and Alison. I was more familiar with the cast and kind of a fan of the people I was working with, although they didn't know that at the time. But I didn't know anything about the X-Men.
Wow.
And it was and I really didn't realize how much impact that the animated series had until, frankly, many years later.
Wow.
Part of it was my lack of knowledge about it, but also being in Canada. We just didn't realize what impact it was having. And so, no, I didn't know.
Wow. That's
it's
incredible.
Also information that wasn't shared.
True. Pre-internet days, no chat rooms. So I can definitely see.
Yeah.
Lenore, what about you?
And I didn't know anything about it. I did not know the X-Men. No, I did not. And we were just told we were auditioning for an X project, like Project X. But that could have been anything, right? I thought, it's a
Lenore
mysterious project.
For so many projects called X project.
It's not true. Well, I was a scream queen in my 20s. Let's put it that way. I did a lot of horror films. I did do a lot of horror films, and of course, horror films involve young women in their underwear half the time.
You did a lot of.
That's hard to believe.
Listen, IMDb is about to hit a huge spike right now.
Right.
That's right.
Flaunt it.
That's right.
There's flaunting and then there's flaunting.
Now, Larry, when did you come into the X-Men franchise? When did you first fall in love with them?
I guess I fell in love with them back in the 60s, man. When I was a kid growing up, I bought the books off the newsstands.
Yes.
And I followed the X-Men since it was created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee.
That's right.
And so I pretty much knew all the history of the X-Men up until the point when we got the show on the air.
That's awesome.
And I had all of this. I tell people I had all of this useless trivia that wouldn't give me employment, and it was only useful on the show. You know,
We appreciate you doing that sincerely. Like some of the different cameos that you worked in there were a highlight to young comic book fans like myself, who could name, you know, the random people that are popping up. I'm like, oh, I know who that is. I get that reference. That's it. That's amazing. Okay, so obviously I expect a bit of bias here, but is your character your favorite X-Men now, or do you kind of have a leaning towards respect of other characters?
Who's that too?
Everyone. Yeah, I want everyone to come in on this one. Who is your favorite
of course,
X-Men?
Sugar. I still love Rogue. Rogue is still my favorite, but you know, I have a little soft spot for Gambit, of course.
Yes, we all do.
Which only grows over the years, you know. But no, I love all the characters, but I love Rogue is one of my favorite characters I ever played in my entire career.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm
George, what about
totally
you?
in love with Beast.
That's awesome. I mean, he was fantastic. He was like that sweet, subtle accent of the longtime comic book goodness to the show that they didn't overuse. In fact, I think they kind of underused him. I needed more Beast in the first season, but that's just me. But I definitely understand that. I definitely. Chris, what about you?
Oh boy. Well, I love them all equally. That's the truth. But you know, I loved playing Gambit for sure. Awesome. I think I always really liked Wolverine as a character, and I love the Canadian aspect of Wolverine. I thought that was representing our country. Yeah. But Gambit, you know, you can't help but feel like an outsider when you play a character like Gambit. So he wasn't as inclusive. So that, I guess, I don't have a favorite. I'm just happy to be part of all of it.
Hey, frankly. I respect that. I definitely respect that. Cal, you don't like Wolverine at all, do you? I mean, you obviously shy away from every reference.
No, that was you couldn't release any tension being that character at all. No release of any tension. They never left that. Whoever the writers were just brilliant. And I loved Rogue's voice because I always loved her voice, and it was just I just loved listening to her, and I liked Cable. I like Gambit. Beast was, of course, my favorite. Like in the show, I think he was too. But I just like Gambit because he was like the ladies' man and a groovy dude.
Suave.
He was absolutely.
This way. Come on, chef. And
Chris, it's totally your fault that I took French in high school. Like it's literally your fault, Chris.
And Bishop. I like Bishop. Bishop and was it Bishop that called? Wolverine called him Rookie, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, back off, Rookie. And he called Wolverine, shut up, old man. You know, that kind of stuff. I like Bishop too, and Cable.
If
I like Sabretooth too.
Yeah, I think that.
Sabretooth was phenomenal, and I spent most of the time with God bless him, with Sabretooth doing our fighting scenes. That's all it was screaming. You could not talk, let alone sing after doing an hour with the Sabretooth.
I think as far as my working memories doing this would have been working with Norm Spencer. I found myself, I often found myself in the studio with Norm because he was always cherry picking the small roles. And so he was always there. And he was, and as Cyclops, of course, he played, but he was one entertaining guy to be around.
Yeah.
And so he was a favorite of mine too.
Of course.
Absolutely.
For the fans,
what a sense of humor he
recently passed, so it is in true memorial that we bring him up today. Larry, did you have any other favorite characters?
Oh, he better be careful. This is a
yeah. This has got tense.
Favorite. Hey, look, my favorite has been all of these guys and gals.
Of course.
I mean, they were perfect for this show we got on the air. You know, most people don't remember. Myself, Will Mineo, and Rick Holberg. We tried to get the X-Men on the air first time. I did Pride of the X-Men.
Pride of the X-Men.
And we got that to a point, and it didn't sell. And so, but we did our best back then. But we did our really best when we got all of these actors together and put on the show, and it lasted for 5 years. So for me, it's all of these voice actors made the show.
Now, do you think that would have happened, Larry, if our dollar was not worth a lot less than yours? Do you think that you would have come to Canada and used Canadian cast members?
I
think
would have, but I think Saban had a big hand in that.
Well, there had to be something about the timeline because so many of you come from other places. I mean, Cal, you're from Ireland. Lenore, you're born in Australia. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
George, you're from Cleveland. So for you guys to all end up in Canada, that's got to be like, was there like a voice acting troupe that you guys were a part of? They just kind of grouped this
sure.
you guys?
No, it was meant to be. It was meant to happen. That's
That's amazing.
Canada's kind of a magnet.
It seems like it. It seems like for mutants specifically. I mean,
place to
Ryan
live.
Reynolds,
Yes.
it kind of works. It kind of works. We actually
Especially
got a
if you're
couple.
from Cleveland.
Well, I mean, you're just like right there. You're right there.
Well, also it's Cleveland, and not to disparage Cleveland, but
yeah, my mom's from Cleveland. I can't say anything bad about Cleveland. I'll get in
My
trouble.
best friend's from Cleveland. Yeah.
when I was in high school, our river burned for 3 days.
Yes, that is a true
I remember
Cleveland
that.
fact.
Seen
That
it
is
on
a
the
true
news,
Cleveland
yes.
fact. Oh my goodness. So we've
That's
got
why
some
you
questions
don't
from
swim.
fans that are no, never. Not
You couldn't break
Here
the
is the term.
surface.
We've
You know,
got some questions from.
Getting back
I'm
to
sorry.
Saban, Cal mentioned Saban, or Larry did, and
Mhm.
I thought they were very, very fair that they didn't charge each of us very much to play the roles. We
got
I
to
pretty
pay in
much-
Canadian funds.
I've almost paid off my debt to Saban,
Wow.
and once that's clear, it'll be a happy day for me.
Clear sailing from here. That's it.
I'm still paying for the jacket.
More for the jacket. Wow.
Yeah, Saban was never known to be very generous with anything.
You know what's funny, and I see it back there with Lenore.
He was
I-
generous
I-
to his home builders.
They talk about that, about the production side and the non, super generous financial backgrounds that they had there. So does that make the
So you
show-
saw my book though, eh?
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Yes. And and see my characters, my models,
I love it.
Gambit and Rogue. I got that at one of the Comic Cons that we were at.
I love it.
Yeah, they came together, and you put them together.
Of course.
Yeah,
Well,
was-
that
was
actually fits
great.
perfectly. So Aaron Agoa has a question. What favorite Disney couple would you want Rogue and Gambit to double date with? If you could
Ooh.
pick any Disney pairing, who's going to
Wow.
double date with Rogue and Gambit? I personally have a choice, but I'm gonna let y'all go first.
I don't even know a Disney couple. Go ahead,
Disney
Lenore.
couple. I don't know. You give me an idea. Who are you thinking?
I would say Aladdin and Jasmine. I think Aladdin and Gambit as thieves would get along really well. There'd be a
True.
lot of, who can sleight of hand the best, and
Yes.
the ladies would have a ball. So
Oh
Is there another
yeah.
option?
is there no Absolutely.
I think Minnie Mouse and Goofy would be good. That's the two of them.
Ooh,
Minnie
that's-
Mouse and Goofy.
How about Beauty and the Beast?
There we go. I like that. That would be a very
Yeah.
royal hangout. I like that a lot. That's
Actually, I like the idea of Jasmine too. I'd like to meet her and Aladdin. Yeah, that would be pretty damn cool.
that would
I think a good another one would be Lady and the Tramp.
Oh, they'd be cute.
That would
We
be
could
adorable.
slurp
Slurp.
spaghetti together.
And the Tramp. Gambit
Yeah, I was gonna
and
say-
Rogue.
Maybe
Oh, my
Gambit and
goodness.
Rogue could be slurping spaghetti right up until their lips
Oh, yeah.
almost touch.
And then
Yeah.
your powers kick in, and he passes.
And
out.
then we would put you on a screen at the Sky Dome.
And then
You
Gambit's
were
head would
doing
go
that.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
At a little Italian cafe with a little guy with a mustache playing the
La
fiddle,
Bella Notte.
violin.
La
Oh, yeah.
Bella Notte.
Yeah, there you go.
Una
Yeah.
bella notte.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Chris? Good idea?
I would watch that.
Yeah.
I would definitely watch that. Oh, we lost his ears for a second.
Yeah, but you watched every episode 3 times, Victor.
I mean,
I think you would watch
Guilty.
anything.
I'm guilty. Okay, I'm guilty. It's absolutely true. We actually got another question. David wants to know, in what ways are you like your characters from this series, and is there any aspect of your character that you wish you had? George, I want to start with you on that one. In what ways are you like Hank McCoy, Dr. Hank McCoy? Let me be professional here.
I would say intellectually and spiritually very close to McCoy.
Nice.
Physically, not so much, and not the blue, but Beast was in some pretty good shape. And I would really give anything to have his physique, even if it meant being blue.
Even if it meant being blue, little smurfish. That happens. That happens. Lenore, what about you?
Well, I would love to be able to fly. I think a lot of people would probably love that superpower. I would love to be able to fly. But I do feel very similar to my character. I've always been somewhat of a loner, always kind of searching for myself, the same as her. Traveled all around the world, kind of trying to find where I fit in best. And, you know, she wants to be in love, but she is very wary of letting her guard down, and I'm very similar to that as well. Hard to get.
I love it. I love it. Chris, what about you?
I think most people that meet me would think I was born in a swamp.
I don't even know what that means. That sounds a little sticky.
If I had a superpower, I suppose electrically charging things would be quite cool. But I liked Gambit's swagger.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always found that refreshing to play, or at least read in the script. It was always sort of exciting to see where I would be this week.
Of course.
But outside of that, no, I'm not criminally minded.
He did it for family. That's different. That's totally, it's not his fault. It's not his fault.
I know what it's like to love a woman. She's upstairs right now.
All right now. That
That
just got so romantic. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
all right.
There you go.
Well,
Cal-
hopefully my wife doesn't come home. But
And we're all in trouble.
There it is.
We just got in trouble. All of us just now. Cal, what about you? How are you like good old Logan?
I don't know. I have his temper.
Okay. All right.
I don't know. I have his heart. I think the same way he does about protecting people and stuff. Always have, and just to protect us, especially children and stuff. And he's like Rogue. He was very much a loner, and I just, I've known for going off by myself. And even when I was doing jingles and stuff, commercials, I just didn't really want to talk to any of the other singers that were coming in. So I would always bring a crossword puzzle and be doing it, instead of talking.
That's amazing.
The girls were going on about girl stuff, and the guys, I didn't have any interest in talking to them anyway because they were competition, sort of. So this is jingles. This is singing. This is not voiceover. So I'm not talking about voiceovers. I'm just talking about, So I just wasn't into big, heavy-duty conversations or anything. So I just think, and Woven was like that. He was very shy, just not sure of himself, and but could split like that, just go crazy, and you don't want to mess with them.
That's the Irish.
That's right.
That's exactly.
And don't do it. Don't do it. Larry, this one's for you. So the lightning in a bottleness of the X-Men cartoon coming right on the heels of Marvel's relaunch of X-Men #1 with Jim Lee and Chris Claremont in '91. What was it like to kind of work with kind of almost so in sync with the comic book aspect to adapt that to animation?
Well, it was like like lightning in a bottle. It was the coming together of the circumstances we were in, and the one of the main things was that my boss, who used to be the CEO of Marvel Productions, she became the CEO of Fox Kids, and she's the one who greenlit everything. And she believed in the Pride of the X-Men so much that when she got over to Fox, she said, "We're doing the X-Men," and it was like great because she brought in myself, Will Minio, Rick Hoberg, and we brought in all the Jim Lee designs, and we took it and streamlined it for animation. But we wanted to try and always keep the aspect, bring Jim Lee to the screen, and with all of our mutual knowledge of all things Marvel, we were all fanboys.
That's awesome.
Professional fanboys, and we're just like, we got this chance to do it right. And we had, what most people don't realize is that we only had one season.
Wow.
They only gave us 13 episodes.
Right.
Like now it's like 5 years, but it's like back then it was like we had 13 episodes. We were going to either live or die on those episodes. So I knew for myself, I had to put in the kitchen sink, and I had to art direct. I had to all the drawings and backgrounds and color keys, and I had to go over the scripts. I had to go over the storyboards, go over the post productions, sound, and all of that stuff. It was like it was a monumental task, but it was like a black nerd's dream.
Of course,
to do all
of
that
course.
stuff and put it out there and be proud of something that I could be proud to say, okay, my name's attached to this, and I was very proud to have that opportunity.
That's fantastic. Literally, you are who I wanted to be growing up and just never knew it. So this is even like better to hear this. In fact, Willow Star 17, who's tuned in, said, I'm rather starstruck right now. I mean, this show was everything to me as a kid. This is crazy. And I 100% know exactly what you mean there. This is absolutely brilliant. But this one is another great question from Leia. What social message from X-Men did you think was most important at the time the series was on the air? And is that most important message today?
One of the messages I know that we tried to get across is that it's okay to be different.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be yourself, and that family matters. And sometimes family is not the ones you're born with. Sometimes family is the ones that you choose
along the way. Well said.
Yeah,
very
exactly.
Well said.
And I would also add to that I felt part of the reason I love doing the X-Men is because it reached out to everybody and was all about all of us coming together, no matter what race you are, no matter what gender, what sexuality. It was all about people coming together for the common good. And even if they were being tormented by government figures or whatever, that they still wanted to do the right thing and come together for the good of all. And that for me is definitely a message for today as well. And again, congratulations to all my American friends.
Thank you. George, what about you? Did you have any thoughts on the messaging that X-Men has presented through the years, maintained?
Well, like Lenore said, there was that unification of all people and that we are all one. And the fact that because you are different, you do have the higher incidence of being oppressed or judged, persecuted.
And
at that time, having come out of the 60s and the 70s, we were all hoping to change the world.
Yeah, that's true.
And
very well said.
We had this expectation that when we took over, when we became our parents, that all these problems that we saw would disappear. And yet today, what we're finding is that those very same issues that we found in X-Men are even more applicable today than they were 27 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And even more important.
So very true.
Today.
Chris, Cal, do you want to add to that?
Well, I would say
No.
kind of.
No, I mean, they've said it all. I mean, it's
I
what they said.
say kindness and inclusivity was one thing, and everyone's desire to be loved.
Of course.
An underlying drive for every one of those characters in their own way. And I think that was all wrapped up in an action-oriented.
True. Very true.
Story that kept people excited, but I always admired that the show never insulted the intelligence of the audience. And we're dumbing people down. And I think that it was real proof, at least to my thoughts in this business, that there is higher ground. But you have to be willing to take the chance to write to that. And too often we find in our industry that the lowest common denominator is catered to.
You.
So that was refreshing with the X-Men, and clearly it's proof that it worked.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the show had a maturity to it, even in the sense of continuity, for a kid show where, previous episodes would be referred to in later episodes and have meaning and intent. That was, one of the greatest things about it was things matter, and that's a huge thing to teach young minds at a very pivotal time, is that the things that happen here, you might not understand it, but it can matter in the long run, and you'll see it. And X-Men is a great showcase of that.
I think that a lot of that came from Larry and his supporters, but it comes from the root of that was that we had. Larry's probably not going to agree with me, but I would say genius minds, fueling that fire. We were just the conduits, and so it was a very successful, lucky combination.
Of course. Just don't shortchange yourself, though, because I think everyone had to be firing on all cylinders to make that work like it did.
All the pieces came together between the writing, these actors, and my boss, allowing us to break norms, because at the time in '94, a successful show was either Scooby-Doo or Super Friends.
Right.
And that's not what we wanted to do.
Scooby-Doo.
We wanted to write stories, instead of writing down to kids, write up to kids and write those kind of stories. And very few people in the industry at that time believed in us. And she allowed us, Margaret allowed us to fight for that and put it on the air. And we didn't know it at the time, but her job was on the line because her boss didn't really believe in it.
Right.
But she did. And she put everything behind it, all of her prestige and power, to get it on the air and to let us tell the stories we wanted to tell. And, I was able to, because of all my comic book background, all this mythology in my head, I was able to shape the scripts and also shape the visuals.
But she was the enabler.
Yes, she was.
That's awesome.
And she got us on the air.
That's great.
He believed in us,
That's awesome. That's awesome. Most Decent Thing has asked, and this is going to start with Cal, but then we're going to go around the room here. Any favorite Wolverine phrases or moments?
Oh.
Yes, there are. Yes, I have a few of those.
You have a couple? You have a couple? What's your number one favorite Wolverine phrase?
Just for a second, go back. Eric Lewald, what you were talking about, Larry. But Eric, I like the way Eric put it about everyone in the cast and the writers and everyone. Eric just said it just seemed like this was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Like that we all met and you guys were all picked for whatever. It just when it melded, it just was perfect. And they said it's just like it was meant to be. It was Eric. Yeah. Those are Eric's Lewald's words.
Shout out to Eric and Julia. They are awesome.
For sure.
Love the Lewalds.
So what's your favorite phrase?
Favorite phrase.
My favorite one is the longer one. It's like, I know what you're thinking, punk. Question is, can I get Wolverine before he turns me into shish kebab with those claws? Well, bub, seeing as how these claws are adamantium, the strongest metal known, and can slice through vanadium steel like a hot knife through butter, buddy, you gotta ask yourself, do I feel lucky? That's my favorite line.
I love it.
But everyone else, they all like, I go where I want to go.
Listen,
and what surprised me was most of his very famous lines, including "Tell Cyclops I made him a convertible." They're all in the first 2 or 3 episodes. They're in the first 2 episodes. Like, I go where I want to go. Tell Cyclops I made him a convertible, and anytime, pretty boy.
Yeah.
That's because those episodes played like 60 million times in that first, couple of months there. That's literally why I got in trouble for that. I go where I want to go. I said it to my mom. I was in
no.
I don't have a healing factor. I learned that real quick. I do not have a healing factor at all. Chris, what about you? What did you have a favorite phrase?
So I'm sorry, and whenever I back again to Don Franks, who played Sabretooth, the fighting scene that they had, particularly where way up with the Inuit or something, and they're fighting because he ends up burning down the village or whatever. He's always doing something wrong. And they fight, and he throws Wolverine over into the ocean below, and he's hanging on to a piece of ice, a chunk of ice, Wolverine. And of course, Sabretooth is yelling down, "You never could take me, Wolverine. You never were as tough as me." And he just like this. And Wolverine, as much as did this, just looked up and said, At least I won't have to listen to your flapping mouth anymore. That he had so many lines. He had the best lines. So there are a lot of them, and I love them all.
Absolutely love it. Chris, what about you?
The line I remember probably the most in my head about those times wasn't anything that Gambit said. It's what other people said to me, in particular Norm Spencer in the studio, which was often,
This is my favorite story in my life. This is it.
Which was the line, is that how you're going to do it?
Really?
No, you're gonna. It was more like Ted Knight, though. Is that the way you're gonna do it? I'll never forget it.
I've told this story many times, but I was always so insecure about the voice and about the surroundings at the time. I just all inside, feeling that way. But it only took a comment like that from somebody like Norm to just grab me.
But it was so funny because, as you said, Chris, you were new, as I was, to the whole scene, and he, no one had heard Gambit of the way he was going to do the voice and stuff, and we're all waiting in this last line, and Norm, of course, just turns as soon as he does the first line, it's just. Is that the way you're going to do it? Like as if it wasn't even close, or you couldn't believe what? Oh, Christ!
I think I always remember Gambit saying things like, "Don't worry, Cheryl. There's always more gators in the bayou."
I love it.
Love it. Absolutely, absolutely. George, what about you?
Well, besides all the obscure quotations that Beast was given, when he's instructed by, I can't remember again, 27 years ago, but this lady tells him to go do something and calls him Blue Boy. And he turns to her and he says, "My name is Mr. McCoy, madam, not Blue Boy."
Yeah.
Love it.
So that's stuck in my head.
That's a great
They call me Mr. What's that show, that movie?
In the Heat of the Night.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Mr. Tibbs.
That's
Yeah,
right.
They call me Mr. Tibbs.
Tibbs.
Oh, Mr.
Right.
Tibbs.
That's right.
What a
Sidney
great
Poitier.
line that was.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
That was a great line.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Lenore, what about you? Favorite line other than sugar of
Well, like Cal, I was very lucky that Rogue had so many incredible lines and funny lines, but I always will love my daddy liked to kill himself when he found out I was a mutant. I can still say that today and get away with it.
Yes, indeed.
I think a lot of us can. And then there's one other one that people always love is you look about as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
I use that one
watch
too.
that one a lot too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a great one.
50,000 times apparently.
It's on Disney Plus now. You can't be mad at me now.
No.
It's right there. It's
No.
streaming.
We're not mad at you.
Is this
Yeah.
thing on Disney Plus?
We're kind of mad at Disney Plus.
Oh,
So.
does that mean I'm going to have to start paying Saban again?
I mean, it's not on Disney Plus. No. That's we'll just erase that. We said that. We'll do a Charles yell, and we'll pretend like that didn't happen at all. So Olivia,
let me add, before I wanted to add something here, was
Yes.
that when the writers would write really good quotes for each actor, I would notate it, and I would reuse it sometimes to try and give them a character. Like with George, it was the word fascinating, or the one you did, oh dear. I would repeat that in other shows. And with Lenore, there was a time when I had to create a new fight, and I repeated one of her lines. So it was like, "Remember me, bright eyes," and she punches Cable right in the face.
love it.
And with Chris, there was one like the name's Gambit. Remember it. When he's fighting
like that
Apocalypse.
too.
I repeated a line that was from another show.
Yes. In fact,
I
it was
put that
Cable
in.
who said that originally to Gambit.
Yes.
Yes.
And with Cal, it was like he had so many, but the one I remembered the most was "I go where I want to go," because I used that a couple of times in other shows to try and I wanted to try and do something like Mr. Spock had a phrase he kept saying fascinating. So when like I wanted to repeat that and give everybody like their
Signature
repeat quotes, signature sayings and stuff like that. So
that's
on my own, I redid that. I did that.
Thank you.
Awesome.
We thank
That's
you.
awesome.
X-Men fans, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Speaking of, Olivia Witt wants to know, how does it feel to know that you were childhood heroes to so many, and now you're becoming those heroes again to their children?
Oh,
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's so amazing. I'll just jump in there and go, we are so grateful to our fans. You've been loyal, you've loved us and our characters, and I know from what we've been told that we've made a difference in your lives, and that's a great thing. And so if we can now help to make another generation feel better about themselves and excited to be part of, that they belong, then we've done our jobs. Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's extremely exciting and satisfying to know that the work we put into the shows and the efforts we put into it are being appreciated by another generation of fans and families. And it's a great acknowledgement that what the work we did matters. And it still matters.
Yeah, and also what you guys were talking about earlier about everything that they touched on, racism and all that stuff. And, they were always like down with mutants and like no more mutants or mutant power. Like Black Lives Matter is so current for these kids now to all this basically what they're saying, like mutant lives matter. Black lives, and that's what we did on our show. And this is a whole new generation. And it's so apt right now.
Very much so. Very
it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I have an observation about this that I think I've been on a television series for 30 years in a row, like one series after the next in television. And I've heard these types of comments over the years, shortly after, but they have a shelf life. So a series I would have done in the 90s, might have heard a few years later from people saying, boy, that really was great for me at the time. My parents and I watched it or something. But I think what's unique about animation is that it has this, it seems to have a longer shelf life because they're animated characters. And the characters haven't changed or aged or been on other TV series. So it's refreshing to see that it has legs because the message hasn't changed. And I think it's a real bonus, to be a part of animation. And that's why we can have this resurgence.
Of course. I got to give a shout out. We have a fan here. K-Rex says, as a non-binary person of color, a nerd living in rural Pennsylvania, this show meant so much to me. Thank you. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about, is this way that it's, reaching beyond even the context of things that were talked about on the show that are still relevant right now, which is absolutely brilliant.
I just want to give a shout out to that fan. Say, thank you, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yes,
thank you,
indeed.
Pennsylvania.
Yes.
I love
right
it.
on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
And a shout out to Portland. It's close to Portland. Leah and Brian. Just
absolutely
fans from there.
Most of you have live action credits to boot. Chris, are you returning for the 14th season of Heartland? Can you say? Are you allowed to?
Yeah. We're halfway through filming the season right now, yes. And it's ironic because you mentioned action, and this year I seem to be involved in a lot of action, just the way the scripts are falling out, and I'm not the same spring chicken I was.
You look spry, sir.
Yes, you look
spry.
You look great. Don't worry. Don't say that. Yeah.
Every day I'm riding horses, but then last week I'm pitching baseball, and then the next I'm playing polo, and I'm thinking, why is this happening now?
Sorry, I just snorted.
Listen,
I can't picture you playing polo.
Scenes when you're 20 and your sports scenes when you're 25 maximum, not when you're 60.
No. Yeah, that's the new 25 now, man. That's the new 25. You got
Maybe they're hoping you'll hurt yourself.
Right. We're trying to get it in me. That's it. That's really
yeah.
60.
So which
you're a baby.
Yeah. Which do you find more fun, live action stuff or voiceover?
Well, the X-Men is the only voiceover I've ever done outside of commercial campaigns. So,
okay.
But I had nothing. It was a combination of fun and fear when I did the X-Men. And now it's just all fun.
There you go.
To be a part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm just enjoying the spoils of all that. So I'd have to say the animation's got to be a lot more fun because the rest of it involves currently working.
Actual
work. I love my work, and I love particularly the part between action and cut. I love the rest of it. Just
everything else is kind of it's up there.
Yeah.
George, what
Hurry
about
up
you?
and wait.
Well, each is a different type of fun.
Of course.
Yeah.
The type of fun that you get out of the animation studio is not comparable to what you get like when you have live action and you're doing actual fighting. And having done a couple of years in South Africa on the Adventures of Sinbad, yeah, every minute of that was backbreaking work. But also, I don't think I've had as much fun in my life.
Yeah.
And
you just can't get out of that chair now.
it takes a lot of work, yes. And every doctor's appointment seems to come up with some new horror stories that I have to face.
Yeah.
I understand that. I definitely understand that one. Oh my goodness.
George, you were good at that. You were really good in that show. I loved watching your action.
Oh, thank you.
Very much so.
Would that I could even walk as far as we had to in that. It was,
You can't.
I can't.
We know.
I got to say something here about doing on camera live action stuff. I just did a film 2 years ago, which came out this year in the pandemic, and has won a number of awards around the world. And you can stream it right now on YouTube and other streaming platforms. But it's called Stage Mother. And I just found out 2 days ago that I've been nominated for Best Supporting Actress.
Oh,
for
excellent.
Here,
Congratulations.
Nice to hear that.
in Nova
Yeah,
Scotia
excellent.
for the Screen Awards. So that's my first on-camera screen nomination ever in my
Let it be the
entire
first of many
career.
more. Yes.
Thank you. So check out Stage Mother, though. I think the fans will really enjoy that one.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've had to deal with a few of those in real life.
Stage Mothers. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. We've only got time for a couple more, but I do want to make sure that I first give a shout out to some of the awesome support groups. So X-Men Reanimated, want to give you guys a shout out. At Marvel Crave on Twitter, we want to give you guys a shout out. And podcaster websites, we've got 5dblog.com, fandummies.com, and MikeMarvelGeeks.net. Those are going to be awesome for you guys to check out as follow-ups. And also, we want you guys to stick around because we're following this panel up with an immediate return of more cast members from the X-Men. So this is going to be insane. Absolutely the coolest stuff ever. I do want to throw out a couple more questions to you guys. Lenore, you voiced another Marvel superhero as Tigra in the oft overlooked Avengers United They Stand series. Cal, you were Captain America and Iceman in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. What other superheroes would you guys like to bring to life?
Oh my God, there's so many. First of all, I like to get the X-Men and do another bunch of series, like another series. I think the Aura film, bring back the show. Yes,
Yeah.
time for
bring back
X-Men.
the show.
Time for X-Men. I think that I'd like to see that first of all. I think it's time. I think that it would be very timely. I think people would love it, and let's make that happen.
Yes, 100%.
How can they? I don't know how they can. I don't know how they're ignoring it. I mean, the fans are just adamant. There's millions of fans that want another season minimum. And they just seem to be like just turning their ear on it.
I love that Cal said adamant, like adamantium. Like I know that's where you were going. 100%. I saw
Adamantium.
I like you were going with that. Chris, what about you? Any other superheroes that you would love to do?
I'd just like to be a part of this again.
100%. 100%.
But I'm always open to offers.
That's awesome.
Especially from the woman upstairs.
Hey. Now, George, you've parlayed your X connection pretty well. So you were in Mutant X, the show for a bit, and you also had a.
Oh no! Mutant X.
Yes.
Was a direct conflict with X-Men, and they actually had a huge lawsuit over being called Mutant X.
Yeah, because there was a comic book series called Mutant X, but they weren't even peripherally.
No, they weren't. But there was a very large litigation that that went on between X-Men, Marvel, and this series that came out called Mutant X.
Yeah, I thought they were just kind of a nice little homage of
No,
sorts.
there was
No,
no
no.
love
Okay.
lost. Am I right, Larry?
No, you're correct. You're absolutely
Yeah.
correct.
Well, then we'll subtract that conversation
And
off
I
the
joined
table.
that show late. I
Wow.
was a late addition to that.
Okay.
It
But
had
you-
nothing to do with X-Men.
But you did have an awesome cameo in the 2000 X-Men
I
movie.
did, and I'm very proud of that. I'm
Yes,
very,
indeed.
very happy that I was included in that.
Now, was that because of your connection to X-Men, or did they just happen
I'm
to
told it
cast
was.
you?
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome. That's
During the
awesome.
audition process, the director, Brian Singer, he actually said that had it not been for our animated series, he wouldn't be making the movie right now.
Also true. Also true.
Exactly.
Now, for all you fans out there, you have to figure out what scene we're talking about. It is a classic scene, very pivotal to the movie, actually, in my opinion. So you got to find that scene. That's a new Wizard World challenge for you guys.
It's
Before
like
we get out of
Finding
here,
Waldo.
no, it's easy. Like I can quote that scene. Like
Well, look at the
literally
size of
quote
him.
that scene.
Yeah.
Listen,
How can you not find them?
that's terrible. That's terrible. One last
Yeah.
question from John Ottinger. Larry, what projects are you working on right now? Can you tell us?
Projects I'm working on right now has been what it was like last year. It was going to conventions, meeting up with my friends, and doing a lot of meeting the fans and stuff. I've been writing. I got a script over at one of the agencies. It's ICM, and they're considering it for turning it into something. But with the COVID, nothing's happening. It's kind of
course.
like, in a holding pattern. So,
And when Larry's not doing anything like that, he and George get together and eat a lot of meat.
oh,
Random meats?
They eat a lot lot of meat. They go to that restaurant. What was that restaurant called?
It's a Brazilian
Oh,
all-you-can-eat meat thing.
yes.
oh yes.
all you can eat meat, and it's the
yeah.
dumbest thing I've ever seen. They just bring racks of meat, different
As
meats.
long as you can
Here's a
shove
lamb
it
for
in.
you. Would you like some of this? Yeah,
That's right.
shave
You
that
got the
onto my
thing
plate.
turned over. They're
And
getting-
these two guys, that's all they do. They're just
Oh yeah,
eating.
meat eaters. Yes, we love it.
I'm hanging
And
out
that
with you
restaurant
guys.
in LA that we went to, what was that called? The
Yeah.
Shillelagh,
Oh.
or what was it? The
Oh,
Big
Tam
meat place.
They're all called
The Tam
Mecca.
O'Shanter.
Yes, something like that. Yeah, it was over in Glendale.
Yeah, the Tam O'Shanter, where they brought giant cuts of prime rib.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Every 3 minutes.
I'm hanging out with you guys.
And then
Next
they
time
truck
we do
out a
that.
lamb. And then right by the table, chomp. Here's some
Although-
lamb. John has
we
some of
had-
that.
We had great barbecue though too in Tennessee and Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh God, yes.
Great
yes,
barbecue.
Yes, we did.
Right?
That's awesome.
They fed us very well in New Orleans. I loved it. I loved coming to all these
And the
places.
Whataburger. The Whataburger.
Yeah. We'll be back.
I got so sick in New Orleans, it was silly.
Oh my goodness.
Because
Oh
I
my
couldn't get
goodness.
enough food. When we first arrived, I had like 3 meals for lunch. Like, because I wanted
Wow.
everything. And then I couldn't sleep while I was just,
Oh,
you
that's-
was crazy what I
that's-
went through.
That's what happens in New Orleans. The food is so
Yeah,
good.
it's
Well, guys,
spicy.
unfortunately, we have come to the end of our session. But again, I want everyone that's watching to stick around for the next session. Again, don't forget, if you're fans watching live or watching later on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, check out those paid exclusive experiences like one-on-one private video chats, autographs, custom video recorded messages, and all kinds of awesome stuff at wizardworldvirtual.com. We've got a load of other panels happening throughout the rest of today, let alone the coming weekend. So look for those at wizardworldvirtual.com. Ladies and gents, it has been an absolute pleasure to sit here and chat with all of you. Literally, fan life, dream come true. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, your effort, everything. Thank you all. One more time, let's give
Wonderful.
Thanks,
a round of applause
Victor.
to everyone.
Thank you, Victor.
Yes,
Thanks,
indeed.
Thanks, y'all.
Everyone here.
Hashtag
Love
bring back
you.
the
See you
show.
all.
We're gonna make
Love
that
you all.
trend. Bring back the
Yes.
show, y'all.
Bring back the show.
Bring back the show.
X-Men.
Bring back the show. Yeah.
Hey, Wizard World fans and X-Men fans. This is Byron Burton. I am a national award-winning journalist for The Hollywood Reporter and co-founder of Awards Focus and dear friend to these wonderful cast members we have with us today. I'd like to welcome everybody, if you could unmute the video, the X-Men Animated Series Part 2 panel with acclaimed actress Alison Seeley-Smith, and then all the fellas, Mr. Chris Britton, Larry Houston, Ron Rubin, and Cal Dodd himself. Welcome, guys.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good to be here. Great to be
here.
here.
Great to be here. Yes.
You know, it's such a pleasure to finally get some of you guys together with the cast. Allison, this is our first formal grouping with you and everybody. It's such a pleasure, and Ron as well. I'd love to just start with Ron and Allison. When you got word about the series, what was your initial reaction? Was this through an agent? They said you might be right for this. What was the sort of circumstance?
Yeah, heard from my agent, had no idea what the X-Men were, didn't watch cartoons, had no idea what I was doing. But hey, let's go do this thing. I'm a working actress. I'd never done animation before, so it was great. I think that I had no idea what it was that I was going up for. I think I would have been maybe a little bit more intimidated had I known. But this was another gig. This was a gig. I'm a working actress. I'm gonna go out there and kill it because I need it. Because that's how I feed and I clothe my children. So and it was not a typical audition. I remember that. I remember not knowing what to do because you go in there and for the, they told me Storm is from North Africa. So I'm getting all those nice rounded, trying to get my Nigerian accent thing happening, really bad at it. And then I go in there and for the first time, there's a recording. So they can tell you, you don't have to listen to it, but if you want to listen to it, this is a recording of the actress who had done it before. There had been a previous actress. I think this one was Iona Morris. And I went, why on earth do they want me to listen to the actress who did this before? If they want a new actress, then, but then all of the people who were auditioning with me there were a lot of well-known actresses who came from Africa. And when I listened to the tape recording, there was no North African accent that I could discern, really. So my choice was, do I sound like the actress on the recording, or do I try to do this sort of more authentic continental accent? Lucky for me, I decided I was going to try to sound like Iona Morris, and I got it.
Yeah, for me, it was, I had been doing a lot of other kind of much more cartoony cartoons, cute little Care Bears and kind of, evil monsters and stuff. So this was a very different gig. So I think most of the actors, voice actors at the time in town went out for this. And, Marvel Comics and, Stan Lee, it wasn't the empire that it came to be. I had heard of them, but I wasn't that familiar with, what it was going to become. And for Morph, it was very interesting because they had me do all sorts of different voices. We had to find his voice, but also they had me do Gambits and Beasts and Wolverine. And I didn't know if I was auditioning for their parts, but I think I was just auditioning so that they could see that I could do different voices. And it was awesome. And it was very different. It was very, it was almost like a theater audition, or on camera as opposed to voice, because they got very real with the direction and going into the characters. But it was great, and who knew we would be here all these years later? So it was a great experience.
And Chris Britton, your character was alluded to by Larry when Larry, you just had found out that the series got a pickup, and so it changed your decision on how to end the first season. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, because the way the first season ended was Gina Scott on top of a hill discussing like getting married, having kids, and saying they didn't know what the future would held for them, but they said we wouldn't have it any other way. You ended on long shot, sunset, and fade out. That was the end of the series. And literally, while we're in post-production, putting it all together, doing all the final touches, they said, you got to pick up for season 2, but you got to change that ending. And so literally in post-production, we had to move scenes around. And then the last line that the actors had was like, I think it was Gene saying, we don't know what the future holds. And then we manufactured like a computer screen with, lights flashing and stuff. And then we grabbed an engineer and we said, here, say this. We kind of made it up on the line, on the spot. And it was like, Sinister knows what the future holds. And we just had them say something, drop it into the show. We added a computer shadow, and that was it. And that's how we created the end of season 1.
Oh,
but
did you pay him?
I have no idea.
Did you pay the engineer?
Probably not. We're talking Saban here,
Gee, surprise. Oh, I thought you were talking Disney.
No, but we knew we had to cast a good voice. And so we knew we were going to cast a real actor. And that's how we got Chris Britton over there.
Oh. I never knew that. That's great.
Well, Chris, you've had a chance. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, that's something most people wouldn't know, and they didn't know for like 20 years until I started talking about it. It was something that only I knew and a few other people.
So, Chris, I'd love to hear about your experience when you came in, but also I would like to have you bookend that with now that you've been seeing the episodes on Disney Plus and online and getting to revisit the work.
Yeah, he's a fascinating character because he has a number of changes throughout the whole series, and a lot of it's in the final episode in the final season. You see the doctor that he was and his his effort to develop a DNA to cure his wife and how he became Mr. Sinister. And then how he joined forces with some of the X-Men. But for so much of the series, he's the perfect villain in so many ways. And but I love the way he evolved. And perhaps Larry, you can fill me in on that. How he evolved as the season progressed. It was almost like you got his backstory as Mr. Sinister and how he became Mr. Sinister and the battles and his obsession with Jean Grey and
and Cyclops,
their DNA.
He was really obsessed of part of your backstory when we started the series in 1992. We had always been asking Marvel Comics New York, give us more information. Like, we didn't know anything about Wolverine's background. We didn't know anything about Sinister's background. We kind of kept forcing the issue of like, we need to know what motivates these characters so we can put it on the screen. And sometime before we got the go ahead to do Sinister's background, they finally did an issue and a couple of issues where they kind of like finalized how you came to be. And then we were able to put it into the show. But like, we didn't know. So we just had to go with what we had at the time. Even with Logan, we didn't have his backstory was like it was still evolving. And so until they told us in New York what it was, we had to sometimes just dance around it. Like we didn't even have Rogue's real name for the whole show. She was just Rogue all the time. We didn't know what the father's name was, the mother, and none of that stuff.
Yeah, well, so much of Sinister is in the those lines. It'd be easier if you don't resist.
Yes,
and less dangerous. It's kind of don't bother fighting me because you'll lose. And if you don't resist, it's just less dangerous.
That's great.
And the way that they told us back then in '92 was that pretty much you couldn't be hurt. But the only person that could hurt you was Cyclops. His beams are like kryptonite to Superman.
Yeah.
So his beams could actually be the only thing that could hurt you back then.
Yeah, then he could, he could bring himself back together, though. That was the other interesting thing about that guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was fascinating because you treated the character like Dracula. You know, it's like Michael Keaton's Batman. He turned very powerfully because he couldn't move his neck. And so with Sinister, you have him coming in and out of darkness as sort of a, not killing your artist, but it gave it such a great effect. And I would say on top of the opening theme, which is so memorable and amazing, a couple of villains got themes, like Juggernaut got a theme, but Sinister had this 4-note tubular bell thing when he would step into the frame, and it was the perfect concoction for like the best villain, I thought.
Yeah, working with Saban, I work with him to try and get every character with a signature a sound or music cue, so that it would precede their entrance, and you would be cued in. Oh, okay, this is Sinister. Oh, this is Magneto. This is Apocalypse. The thing is with Mr. Sinister, I was always a stickler for making sure the visuals were accurate, and so I wanted to use Sinister's costume as accurate as I could, but he had all of these lines and the crazy the cape and stuff and the ribbed lines and stuff. So and we didn't have a Disney budget, and so what I had to do was, with him, I tried to always have him walk in and out of black, like right about here, chest high. And if he was talking, you cut to someone talking. When you cut back to Sinister, he's over there. And then when you cut back, he's over there. And then when he finishes his dialogue in black, he just goes back into the blackness.
And there's I'm sorry to interrupt there. No, I was just going to say there's such an obvious, interesting link with Sinister and Morph, because when Morph was left for dead, Sinister implanted the evil brain, and that started the evil Morph arc in the show, which was, awesome.
Yes, yeah.
That's
go ahead.
So true.
No, and I think you should have had for Wolverine's music, like, when they appeared, if they had their own music, Wolverine should have been, here's Logan, here's Johnny.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, God, that would be hilarious. Hey, they've got to do a musical, X-Men, the musical.
That would be pretty
good. Lord.
Well, it's so funny because, we talked about the themes in the first panel about, friends of humanity who say no more mutants, and sort of the hate that we've somewhat seen, more tensions rising in society these days, with an analogy, but also Sinister's implantation of the Thing and Morph, but also the way he would, sorry if I dropped off there, the way he would talk to Morph about how they left him for dead and manipulate him. It was very much a propaganda thing, this relationship that you'd formed. And I'm just curious what you guys thought when you were recording those lines, and that unique sort of, because you did save him. You can't deny that you saved his life, but the hold over him was very, very manipulative.
Yeah, there's quite, Morph went from kind of a happy-go-lucky, kind of a fun character to a very, very kind of dark, troubled, tormented soul. And Sinister had that hold over me, and I was, my brain was just going in two different directions. I part of it knew I was an X-Men and my loyalty was to the team, but part of me, I was abandoned and left to die, and had been controlled by Sinister and others. So it was in those future seasons that Morph kind of took the evil arc. It got a lot deeper and a lot heavier for my character.
Oh yeah, and you for Morph, you have the fans to thank for you.
I heard. Tell this story.
When we got to pick up for the second season, they said, we said great, but he said we did a audience, talk to kids about what was their favorite character, and it was Morph. And they said, you got a second season, but you got to figure out a way to bring Morph back. And I was like,
wow,
okay. So we really didn't want to do like a death scene that was like, guess what? He wasn't dead. We brought him, one of those trick stories. But because in the first season, you were supposed to remain dead. But since they brought us back to the second season, we figured out, okay, how can we bring him back? And we were thinking about a villain who plays with biology. And it was Mr. Sinister. And so we figured, okay, we married those two together, and bring you back with PTSD and have some fun with it for a season.
Oh, I've never heard that. I knew this. I'd never realized the second season hinged on Morph.
Yes.
Wow. I was told by the writer that they wanted me to befriend Wolverine, right? Create that connection and then kill me off to show that they weren't playing, that they weren't fooling around here. And then there was an outcry from the fans to bring him back. Actually, the writer said, you really effed up our story arc, like after season 1, because you had, you were written off. But that's, I had never heard that before, Larry. That's awesome.
Yeah, the fans brought you back.
Awesome.
Larry,
thank you, fans.
How long did it take you to and everyone to create one episode?
Each episode from the creation, from when I received the script to when the kids saw it on the air, it's 9 months for one episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
It's still, back then it was still a labor intensive to do one episode. And so overseas in Korea, we would have I think it's like 5 studios we would have. So, studio 1 would get episode 1, 2, 3, the second studio would get episode 2. And by the time you got back to 1 again, they would be finished with whatever they were doing and we could give them like show 6. And it just kept rotating that way. And that's how we got the season done.
Right.
It was all by hand. And that's why it took so much time.
Hey, Cal, you talked about when you first saw your character animated on Halloween night. It really impressed you and also impacted how you played the role. I'm curious if anyone else had a similar experience with that, sort of seeing their character. And Alison, you've just sort of revisited a lot of the great episodes this past month in preparation.
Yeah. I don't remember, because my big thing was that when we were recording, we didn't have a storyboard. So there was I didn't really get to see it. I mean, my whole experience through this was actually kind of a little weird, because I was so busy out in Stratford. I was doing Shakespeare at this point. And the only days that I had to come in and do this, my X-Men recordings, were on Mondays when the theaters were dark. And so because of that, because my schedule was so scrunched, I hardly ever had time to meet with anybody. None of the actors were in the studio. So I always felt like I was doing Storm a bit in a vacuum. And yes, when they did show me, pictures of who this woman was, then you start to really inhabit it. But it was so much of it was in the writing, and the writing was strong. The writing was solid. That's where it came from. As a theater actor, that was my first thing. Not the images, not the visual, but what do I do with these words? And the words were nice. They felt really good in my mouth as a Shakespearean actress, and that's where I got it from. And I also want to say real kudos to Dan Hennessy, who was a director on it, because you've got an actress alone in the studio who doesn't know animation, doesn't know the story, is not working with the other actors. There's none of that feeding in, that energy that you get from working with people. It was just me and the script and a microphone and Dan Hennessy, and that we managed to find that kind of layered depth to Storm is a testament, for me, doing it less the visuals than a fantastic script and a really good voice director.
She's a great example of how we got such great voice talents to be put into our shows. It was like lightning in a bottle to get all of these actors on one show at that time in the 90s. It just worked. You guys brought those characters to life, and the audience embraced it, and you guys put so much into it. I think that's equally, or if not more, the reason why the shows have lasted so long.
Yeah, that's the challenge here. That's the challenge for voice actors and everyone who was involved with this series and animation, is that many times you're not in the studio with the other performers.
Right.
And you don't have a full script. And the image of the character you have can give you some important information, but it's the text. And so the actor's challenge is to create the reality of the relationships within the characters that are on the page.
Right.
And so for the actor, that's what their job is to create that reality within their mind. It might not be totally, accurate as you find out when you actually see the whole episode, but you're in the ballpark, and sometimes you're right on, and sometimes there might be a little, you might look at it and say, maybe I had just done that line. If I had done that line with just a little tweak there, I would have felt better about it. But that's the way animation and voice acting goes.
Yes,
And
as
I
said-
like the seeing it for the first time, because we had done like 7, 8 episodes before I even saw what he looked like. I mean, other than pictures. And then like Alison said, there were no storyboards or anything. When I saw him, it was like October, Halloween night of '92. I just went, I get it. I get this guy. And I just loved the way he looked and everything about it. It was just like, what? I wish I'd known that, to go back, to do, like you say, to do some lines over again. Look at this guy. He's too cool. Like, you were just going, as they all said, thanks to Dan Hennessy again, for creating in our brains what the story was, and like painting a picture in my head, and he would say, after a number of episodes, he'd say, what would he say there, Cal? What would Logan say there? I wasn't writing lines, but it was like, he just, 2 words or something. They'd say, perfect, put that, say that. But it was so wonderful to see him finally, and it just opened my eyes, like, I love this guy. He is so cool.
You guys were able to inhabit the characters. You guys got it, which is great.
Yeah.
We're getting these fan questions come in, which is great. So this one here from Beatles Fangirl 15. This is for Alison and Cal. And I want to first lead in with this. Alison and Cal were part of the X-Men Spider-Man crossover. And number one, I'm curious, did you guys know that this was going to be a special thing on the other animated series at the time, or was it just another day of recording?
I was excited. I was very excited about it, because, but I thought we were going to be working with them, and we would hear their voices, and when we initially started out, we had 5 or 6 of us in the studio together and bouncing off each other and stuff, which did not work for the engineer. He just said, there's leakage, there's spillage everywhere. This is not working. So as Alison said, we would come in one at a time and work for an hour and a half, whatever it took. And Dan drew pictures for you to thing. But what did I interrupt about?
The Spider-Man crossover.
Geez, I love this. It's well, with COVID, I don't know what day it is even. So I thought we were going to have to, hear their voices and stuff. And no, it was just another script. And there you go. And this is Spider-Man. We did it. We never saw it. And then, communication between them. And then, of course, when you see it, it's wonderful. But, we didn't, it was nothing special. It was just another episode.
Yeah, same here. It was another episode that we had to do. There might have been, another little thrill going through, but I just loved performing so much that, every day in front of the microphone was a great time. You're going to add the added adrenaline that this is going to be Spider-Man, sure, but it was another episode. It was more work. We like that.
From Puzzlement 86, Mr. Chris Britton, sir, what is your favorite Sinister moment? And are you still scaring children with that voice? It sure scared me when I watched the show.
I would say, when he, one moment is when he introduces himself, when he says, my name is Sinister, Mr. Sinister. But also all of the episode of Descent. I just think that's for his character, sort of in the final season, where you follow his path, and you know, he's fighting to save his wife, and wishes to do these DNA experiments, and the resistance against that, and all that stuff. And then, of course, the battle with Sinister and all the X-Men, where that episode, I can't remember what it's called. Larry, do you remember when the big fight between everyone?
That was no battle, Bob.
We've had a couple. It could be the. Oh God, which one?
Well, it was the one where they're inside. I think Sinister's
Savage Land, chemical building,
right, the Savage Land place.
And that's right. And I sort of, I'm shot with some laser, and I disappear into all these pieces, and then I come back together again, and all that.
Oh God, that's right. Yeah, the Savage Land
Yeah,
we had set up a subplot of we were telling an A storyline, but the B storyline was, let's see, Xavier and Magneto going through the Savage Land, and ending with you guys with Sinister, capturing everybody.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And Ron, that was some of your best acting. I thought that was so great how you played the sort of moment of being ripped between both. And, Xavier in that particular scene, once Cyclops had appealed to you, but in that particular scene, I remember Xavier was talking to you telepathically and helped you join in the fight with Cyclops to blow up Sinister. That was just a fantastic voice performance.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Like I said, when Morph kind of had to get dark and go evil and was torn back and forth between the X-Men and Sinister, it was challenging. It was challenging as an actor, but it was so well written. And for the first little while, I just got to imitate and impersonate other voices. But during that scene, because I recently watched that, and I said, "Wow, that's not a bad scene. That was great with all of us." There's some good actors, like you got some great actors with some great writing, and it was a challenging script. And I love that scene. I remember when Morph was in the hotel room and kind of freaking out and screaming, and why did they leave me? And why did he leave me to die? I really had to kind of push myself. It was very different from the other cartoons that I was used to doing up until that point. It was so different at the time.
That's because this wasn't a cartoon, Bob. This was an animated series.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
What's the dog show you were talking about, Larry? The
Scooby-Doo
cartoon.
Oh, Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo. Yeah, this ain't no Scooby-Doo, Bob.
No.
And then and it was the same with Avengers, although this is for X-Men, but Avengers was very similar as well when I was doing Vision. Anyway.
It was no X-Men.
Right. Yes.
Geeky Fit. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Larry.
No, I was gonna say my friend, his name's Ron Myrick. He's the one who there was a Avengers done through Saban again, and I think you were on. You were playing the Vision on that show.
Yeah, I was the Vision for that, which was a very different sort of voice, and it was very understated, but still, it was beautifully written and challenging as well. That was we only did one season of that, but the Vision was a very cool part, one of my faves.
Yeah.
Geeky Fit Male, and I don't know if that's like a European name, Fit Male, or if this is a bodybuilder. I'm guessing maybe that, but Geeky Fit Male. Question for everyone. What is the best thing you remember reading, hearing from a fan that made you realize the impact the show had on people's lives?
For me, I think it was when all of us were at some conventions and hearing the testimonials coming to us. Like there was one guy who was growing up, he was short, and he really latched onto Logan because, especially in the early episodes, like when Logan says, you like picking on people that are smaller than you. Well, I'm smaller than you, pick on me. And he just, Wolverine was fearless, but he what he conveyed to us was that this gave him a lot of courage and resolve to help him through that phase of his life. And listening to the testimonials is what I think was most gratifying, that we were at these kids, we were at a certain point in their lives, we were able to help them get over that certain part of their life so they could gain confidence and the critical thinking they needed to become a better person and to get past that point in life.
Yeah, well said, Larry. And I think, a lot of kids who didn't get accepted or weren't accepted for whatever reason, they saw the mutants not being accepted into society. And, at a lot of cons, I get people saying that, not only was that my childhood, but that really kind of supported me and helped me and gave me confidence because, I'm not accepted because I'm this, that, or the other thing. And it really hit people on a lot of different levels. It really
Yes,
did.
it did. Yeah.
I think.
Go ahead, Alison.
I just think. For me, what was really important, of course, was the fact that this was a Black superhero. And I think it really came home for me. We lived in Scarborough, and Scarborough is an extremely racially and culturally diverse neighborhood in Toronto. And I remember, my daughter's softball team, and all of a sudden I am surrounded by these kids, and they're in this circle around me, and they're just staring up into my face like this. It's like, oh my God, you're Storm. And I don't know if it was Storm, but there was also the fact that they were sitting right in front of somebody in real life who looked just like them and who played Storm. And it was I'd been getting a fair amount of that even out in Stratford when you do the school shows, and they bring the inner city schools out there, and they see a Black woman playing Hippolyta. So there was, around that time, there was something really good to be said for the fact that there was a powerful superhero, Black superhero, and that there was, a Black woman playing that superhero. And that she lived in a place like Scarborough.
Yes. Yeah. You were the Uhura of the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, we had many. I mean, at the table, it's and I miss them so much. I miss the fans so much, and not being at the actual Comic-Cons. And there seemed to be an awful lot of autistic people and their children.
Yeah.
That just were drawn to the X-Men series for what you said about they pick a character they like, and Wolverine was short and didn't take trash from anyone, and that helped him. This guy, this man, he was about 24, 5, 6 maybe, and he brought his daughter who was about 10, maybe 9, and they were both dressed in black, and he had his claws on, and he came up to the table, and this happened a lot, but like this just blew me away, this couple. And he said, he just stopped, and he had dressed in black, and he did his speech, and he said, I have to thank you for saving my life. I'm autistic, and so is my daughter here. And I was picked on all my life, and I could hardly wait to watch X-Men on Saturday mornings, Fox Kids, and because it just gave me hope. And we're not all the same. And it was just beautiful what he was saying. And he said, I just had to come up and say that. And that's after 2.5 to 3 minutes of him just emptying his guts. And I was like losing it. I just said, wow. He had the claws on. So I put my hand up to him. I said, I can't believe what you said. And that's just so wonderful. I'm so happy that I was even a part of that, of help. He said, oh no, you saved my life. And I put my hand out, and he took just the claw off, and he shook my hand. And with that, there was a woman off to the side. The two of them just flipped around and walked away from the table. And this woman came running over, and she's crying, and she said, I can't know how to thank you. I don't know what to say to you, but that's my husband, my daughter. And he has never, his autism, ever touched another person's hand, or never touched anyone. He had to shake your hand.
Wow.
That's a great story. Wow.
Yeah.
What kind of an impact is that?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, we have Melissa Cintron that just said for Alison, representation truly matters. And there's a lot of gratitude to you for that story.
Thank you. Representation really, really matters. And, it's wonderful.
Larry, I'll give you a little praise too. Inkpot Award winner. That's very rare, a great distinction.
Yeah.
Larry's brilliance was always coming up with new ways to you made the show cinematic with I know Gladiator was supposed to just show up and punch somebody, and one of your thoughts was, no, he needs to come in, and we see his fist flying through the air like Superman.
Yeah.
And I want to tie in your sort of creative direction with Morph's best episode, which was a reunion, I think, or something like that. But I had Ron watch it recently, and it's just a great performance where he comes back to the X-Men, and he doesn't quite, feel like they think he's well from his trauma. And then, of course, the Sentinels show up in the episode, and he has sort of a setback, but he comes through in the end. And that whole ending you just devised, Larry, like on the fly. Can you talk about that?
Wow.
Yeah, the episode was called Courage for
Courage. Yes.
For him. And he was, all of the X-Men go and they get captured by the Sentinels, and Morph is the only one that can save them. And so the way the script was written was that Morph, you come in and you have a ray gun and you're shooting the ray gun, and that was it. And so I created the entire sequence out of from my imagination, that when you get captured, you start showing your morphing abilities and how you're like one of the most powerful characters we got, because you morph into other characters that have physical power. And like you turn into Sasquatch, you turn into the Angel, you turn into Omega Red, and showcasing, even though you can change shape, you don't gain their power. So I had to mentally think about, okay, what characters can he morph into that have abilities of physicalities? And so I gave you this entire sequence so that people could see how powerful you were. And, that's one of the things as a director, that I think that's one of the things I brought to the show, was that I brought my own fanboy, perspective to it, and knowing, I just have a gut feeling what it is like to still be a boy reading this stuff. And I brought that when I went over every storyboard, I tried to, say, okay, what can I do to the sequence to make it more exciting? And if I could make the little boy in me get excited when I'm changing stuff, it's like, yeah. Because if I get excited, if that little kid in me gets excited, it will translate to the audience out in the world. And
That's
so
amazing.
That's how I gave you a way larger moment than what was written.
And I love you for that, Larry. I'm in awe of you. Thank you. Byron sent me that scene prior to this, and I saw it, but I did not know the backstory, what you did and what you created, and how you gave Morph all those changes and everything. So that was brilliant. Thank you.
Oh.
And Ron, while we're on Morph,
yeah.
What's that?
David, while we're on Morph, David Leninsky said, Ron, could you please do the Morph laugh?
Well, the Morph laugh is interesting because when I first got the show, he was a little more happy-go-lucky, so the laugh went up. And so it kind of went up as Morph. And then when he entered the dark side, and Mr. Sinister put the evil brain into him, it became and it kind of went down. So basically there's two sides to Morph.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for the question.
There you go, David.
That's excellent.
Annie, who's watching from Poland, she said, you guys are our heroes. I would die if I could meet you in person. Have you ever met someone you were a fan of, and was it a positive experience?
Yeah, I've been, through circumstances, I've been to Poland 3 times.
Wow.
That's such a lovely way to put it, through circumstances.
Yeah, no,
different shows.
I
Voluntarily,
studied there,
right?
I studied theater and film there for a summer when I was at York University in the town of Łódź. And then I was flown there twice to work on the Peter Greenaway film Night Watching. The artistic community in Poland is one of the most remarkable in the world, I think. But Robin Williams, I would say I worked, I had 2 scenes with him in a film called Final Cut, and I left that experience with greater admiration for not only his talent, of course, but him as a human being. He was just a wonderful, wonderful, generous man. And Forrest Whitaker. he was a wonderful person as well. And, you know, I had a few scenes. One scene, I had a gun to his head, which, you know, you know, but
being Mrs. Sinister again.
yeah. Deacons for Defense was that film, but he was also, I have such great memories of him as a human being. Those were two that immediately just come to mind.
Mine was Maya Angelou. I mean, I'd read her stuff, so, and you know, words, words for me are everything, right? I'm a text-based actor, and so here I am, and I'm auditioning for. I think it might have been the only film that she ever directed, which is Down in the Delta, and you know, I'm so nervous. Usually I'm not. I mean, you know, there's a, this is what I do for a living, right? It's just another audition. But I mean, come on, this is Maya Angelou. I didn't get the role that I was auditioning for, but apparently she was so taken with me, and she kept calling me Alison Seeley Stratford Smith. And she gave me a really small role, and then she brought me back as an on-set coach for one of the young kids who was working on the show. And so that was amazing. That was amazing for me to work with her, and we'd sit down and we'd talk about, you know,
really?
Moments that she wanted as a director. And I was just like, I was awestruck. I don't do this. You know, you meet so many people in this business, and it's work. Okay. So you're a better paid actor than I am. Fine. We can work together. I mean, that's all it is. But for Maya Angelou, it was a slightly different thing that was happening there.
Incredible. We have people tuning in from Poland, Israel, Canada, all across the US and Ireland. Yeah. Cal's got
Ireland.
You got Ireland. I'll take it.
Which two people from Ireland do you have there? You probably have. Do you have Daniel Fee there? Do you?
I believe Daniel is.
We all signed autographs for Daniel. Now, most of all the famous people that I met were all singers, except for Raymond Burr, and I met Raymond Burr doing the Alan Thicke show or the Alan Hamill show. One of them, I did both of them. So out in Vancouver, and he's a huge man, Raymond Burr. Anyway, we just hung out for a while, and I was singing, and he was, you know, he's who he is. And the other ones are like, I've sang on Anne Murray's records, and I met Bo Diddley, Chubby Checker, Chuck Berry, Shaka Khan, and sang background for these people on the Blood, Sweat, and Tears Super Special. And, you know, they're all just musicians and fun to be around. Are you kidding? They all smoke and drink. It was great.
Chris, it's funny that you mentioned Robin Williams, because I had a chance to work with him too, but this is back in the 80s when I was doing stand-up comedy in New York, and I got to became somewhat friends with Robin. We were doing some clubs together, and Billy Crystal, and amazingly improvisational, beautiful, like talented, gorgeous people. But like we all know, just, you know, they're people, they're humans, they're actors like us.
Yeah, great documentary on Netflix on Robin Williams.
Yes, absolutely,
wonderful. Yeah,
his book is great too.
And the UK, our United Kingdom friends, Britton. The Everest pup wants to know if you guys have any funny moments with Norm. I know Chris Potter gave a great one in the first panel. Norm or Ron, could you do the censored version of the pig story?
The Norm, God bless you. It was one of our first series we were doing. It was not a great cartoon series. It was called Pigsburg Pigs, and we all had to play pigs. And the director asked us to walk around the room as our characters, and I had never done that before or after. And we were all walking around like pigs. And this is Norm's very, very, very first cartoon. And I just remember him turning to me and he say, "What the F am I doing a pig? I went to broadcasting school for this. How's my pig? How's my pig?" He kind of had to be there, but it was just Norm being Norm. Yeah. It's not a very funny story, but whatever.
Was his hair okay? Is my hair good?
Exactly, Cal.
My hair fine? Well, this is what we're talking about here. Cyclops, Norm
Cyclops.
Spencer.
That's Norm.
What a crazy sense of humor. Crazy sense of humor, that dude.
Well, I was doing a radio commercial with Norm back in the 80s, and he kept saying that to Cal. He kept saying, how's my hair? How's my hair? And I kept saying, Norm, it's radio. Yeah, but how's my hair?
And it was really thin anyway. I mean, I have hair. Norm is like just whitish, sort of gray, and just always sticking it back, make sure that's just right there. We were doing, what were we doing, Ron?
What?
Oh, no. We were all there's, like I said, there was like 4 or 5 of us in this thing in the studio doing an X-Men episode. And Dan said, do any of you guys do a Jack Nicholson?
That's right.
And Storm, and as you were saying, anytime you can get a bit part, you get paid half again what for your regular pay. So everyone was eager to do those 1 or 2 lines as another character. And so Norm said, I can do that for you. He's standing right beside me, and I've just met him. Like I said, it's almost like the first or second episode, and we don't really know each other, except that I stole Chrysler from him, and he found that out. It's the only commercial it is the only commercial I had ever done up to that point. No voice work whatsoever, all singing. And my first commercial was Chrysler for 2 years. And Norm, when he found out, he said, "Oh, you're the one that stole it from me, are you?" Because he did it for years. So anyway, he does his Jack Nicholson line or his impersonations of people, and I just said, do you mind if I just read for that? Do you mind? Not too bad. So it won't take me long. So whatever the line was, I did it. And Norm just turned to me and said, "Oh, piss off." It was worse than that, but why don't you just, and he said, "Okay, it wasn't bad." And every time when I saw him, ever since I saw him, and we would be called to the studio for the same voices, because we'd have the deeps, whatever, and the booming voices sound, and he'd always be there. And he was with our agency, and Ron, myself, and Norm. And as soon as I would walk into the studio, he'd be there, and he would just look at me and go like, "Why do I even bother coming in?" But he was he's building me up, but he was so generous and funny that way. But at the same time, is my hair okay? Yes, it's your hair. It's okay.
I remember that day in the studio, Cal, because it was the first or second episode, so Morph was there, and I remember him doing his Jack Nicholson and you doing yours, and I do a good bad Jack Nicholson. I didn't even throw my hat into the ring, and he just looked at you after yours and said, "Why do I even bother?" or whatever. Yeah. It was hilarious.
Like he's always the poor baby. "Why do I even bother? I don't know why I come here." But anyway, that's our friend. This is Cyclops. Say good night. Good night, buddy.
Living the dream.
Yeah. Chris, Britton, you talked about Descent with that being probably your favorite episode. I also loved when you and Beast teamed up as everybody was sort of being pandemicked, as you could say, the virus in that episode. It was great to see Sinister team up for the greater good.
Yeah, this is what I was referring to, and how he changes. Larry, you seem to have given Sinister a whole range of allegiances and character development. Which was
Alison,
terrific.
Can you tell me your favorite episode you've seen now that you've been going back through?
Yes, well, it took a little while, because I'm a director as well as an actor, right? So I spent the first little while watching these episodes going, "Why'd you do it like that? I mean, just mellow, girl, mellow. Oh, no, punch it now, punch it." And so I wasn't really enjoying it. And then Savage Land, Savage Heart. Yes. I think it's season 3. And I love that. And there are a whole bunch of them that I saw, and I feel like going, I want to do them now. I understand a lot better now what I'm supposed to be doing with this role. And it's when she lets go, when she talks about how, and it's, just small p political, it's that whole Black woman having to keep their rage down in order to be socially accepted, and not to fall into the stereotype of the angry Black woman. And she tells Rogue, unlike you, I have to keep my powers in check so that they don't, so I can't let it go. And there was something about her rage and freedom, and I really liked that one. It's when I watched both of them without being too hard on myself. It was good, and it really reminded me how good the writing was on it. And thank you, Larry, for the themes that it took on, and the fact that I can see it now after not wanting to watch myself and go, okay, that was okay, but I mean, I could do an even better job now.
Yeah. Well, maybe Disney will give you a chance.
Hey.
Yeah, that would be great. And Larry, also thanks to you for doing the impressive new cast piece, which is available on the Wizard World store that everybody's going to sign if you order that. It's a completely original piece Larry did from scratch, which features Wolverine getting a little bloody with Sabretooth while the other X-Men face off with the Sentinel. That's really great.
Awesome.
It was fun. It was fun to revisit the characters and have some fun with it. And one thing I wanted to bring up, though, was I had never, you were talking before about meeting your heroes and actors and actresses. For me, my hero was the guy named Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, which are between the two of them created almost like 99% of all the Marvel characters out there. And I had a chance to go to meet Jack Kirby in person. I had a chance to go to his house, meet his wife and kids, and it was like I was almost stunned into silence talking to him. But he was like my inspiration for all of the art that I did throughout the years, since I grew up in South Central, single mom, and comic books and TV shows were my outlet. That was my entertainment, and that kept me inspired to do the stories that I drew and would read. And so meeting Jack Kirby and then eventually being hired by Stan Lee to work at Marvel Productions for like 10 years was the other things. Like, oh my God, I got Stan Lee. He's like 2 doors down from my office and I could see him every day. It was like it was like a dream come true,
Yeah.
And those are the two for me inspired me a lot. And I'm really glad I met both of those two individuals.
So are we.
Yeah.
So are we.
I've done 4 Stan Lee characters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Pindy at Pindy for the question about favorite episodes. And just to rehash everything, guys, if you've been watching on the Twitch, the YouTube Live, the Facebook Live, if you go to any of those sites where the Wizard World is, you can also find their website link. Go to wizardworld.com or Wizard World Vault, and you can get one-on-one chats, autographs. You can do a group chat, or you can do the specialty piece done by Larry, signed by everyone, which is this great collector's item. I'm going to be getting one myself. I really want to thank Chris Britton, Alison Seeley-Smith, Larry Houston, Ron Rubin, and Cal Dodd for joining us in hour 2 of the X-Men animated series Comic-Con panel for Wizard World Virtual.
It's not over, is it?
We are wrapping
No, it's not.
Cal's gonna be on.
No, before you wrap up, I just want to give.
Maybe you didn't hear me. Perhaps you didn't hear me, pal.
Yeah, just want to give a shout out to my peeps in Barbados. Right, it's
I love Barbados,
and I just want to represent. Well, we talked about diversity and we talked about representation, and so before we go, I just want to represent Barbados. 246.
So well.
246. Excellent.
So long, Barbados. I love you. I was there 10 years in a row with my mom. Love it. Christchurch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, baby.
Well, I know I speak for all the cast when we look forward to seeing you guys at these events in person again very soon.
Absolutely.
And in the meantime, we will connect with you guys virtually. We're so glad for the comments. We can't wait to speak to you guys one-on-one. And yes, Starship Troopers is at 1 p.m. Pacific time today. Land of the Lost is at 3 p.m. Pacific time today. Then November 8th, we've got a Baywatch reunion with Wizard World virtual. November 9th, pinups, cosplayers, and is raising money for vets. And then on November 12th, last fan standing, of course, with Bruce Campbell. All lots of fun events. Guys, thanks for tuning in today. We so appreciate it. Hope you have a blessed Saturday, and mutant power.
Thank you.
Thanks, Byron.
Thanks, Byron.
This has been fun.
Larry, thanks for all the backstories. Appreciate it. They're awesome.
Love you
Wear your
guys.
mask.